Hi, this is Frode, and today we will explore three key ideas from Flow by Mihalyi Csikszentmihalyi. Flow. Subtitle: The Psychology of Optimal Experience. Mihalyi Csikszentmihalyi is a psychology professor who is renowned for his investigations into the most satisfying experiences that people can have. It's the state called flow, the state of optimal experience. And he has studied a really wide range of subjects, like the more common ones in such studies of peak performance and enjoyment of activities like athletes, executives, and musicians. And after that, he went out and studied everybody. And by that, I mean almost everybody. That, like shepherds, dancers, meditation teachers, spiritual gurus, and all kinds of people that can imagine. And what he has discovered about the state of flow is what he shares in this book. In Flow, he shares what is this state called flow, why would we want to get into it more, and what are the ramifications for our life if we do that, and how can we more consistently get into flow. He shares a lot of great suggestions, although not a like step-by-step process as you see many authors do, which can tend to be pretty dogmatic and only work in specific cases. But these are more general principles that we can apply to our lives now in any activity that we choose to make it more enjoyable. So, I'm going to talk about what flow is, why we want more of it, and how we can get more of it in this video. So let's begin with the first one. What is flow? Flow is this state of optimal experience where you feel like time just vanishes. Your self-consciousness disappears, and you are absolutely immersed in the activity that you're having right now, in your immediate experience, without drifting off into thoughts about the future, what you're going to have for dinner, what somebody that you're going to meet, or into the past, like what somebody said, what you did, like what you could have done better, and such. You are right here in this experience. Now, you might have experienced flow when you have been working out, had really been just crushing it while you were lifting weights or running and felt you were performing at your peak capacity. Your conditioning, your lungs and your body might have been screaming with pain, but you were still kind of composed and you were actually enjoying what you were doing. And afterwards you can see that, oh my God, I haven't been doing anything like this ever before. This was quite amazing. But you might not have actually realized that it was the state of flow. Then you might also have been writing on some project of yours, whether it's a blog post, an assignment that you have, or a book you're writing, and it felt like that the words were just flowing out of you, like a torrent of inspiration pouring forth through you from God or something. And afterwards you were like, wow, that came easily, but it's so good too. And also you might have experienced flow when if you have been singing in the shower or in the car, screaming at the top of your lungs, having the time of your life, something that you probably don't do around other people, because maybe perhaps because as when you were a child, you were singing around others and people were like, oh my God, that's horrible, just shut up. And from that time you haven't been singing around other people again. Or you might have a beautiful voice and be confident singing around other people. And if so, good for you. But those are some examples of flow experiences that you might have had yourself. You can fill in the blanks with many more such experiences where you have been, the time vanished, your self-consciousness disappeared. You didn't really think about how you looked from the outside or how you were doing. You were just immersed in the activity and totally focused. It was also quite enjoyable, perhaps. Most likely. But now you might wonder, how do I actually access this state of flow even more? And that's something I'm going to talk about in the third idea. But now let's go to the second one. Why do we want more flow? What are the benefits, the rewards of flow? And to help you and to explain this idea, I want to use a personal example. For the first 5 months of this year, 2018, January to May, I decided that I wanted to start reading more personal development books and such, and teach a little bit less of these book recommendations, because that would give me more time to reading, so I could gain a bigger perspective around the entire field of self-development and how we can become all that we're capable of. But eventually, I found myself becoming very bored, and I started drifting into these obsessive activities like overeating, especially ice cream, because that's really a kryptonite, my greatest weakness. Also watching a lot of TV shows and movies, to the point where, I was really becoming sad, bored, even depressed at times, because I wasn't really feeling like I had any great progress in what I was doing. So what I realized when I, 2 weeks ago, when I started really studying peak performance books like Flow, Peak by Anders Ericsson, Talent is Overrated by Jeff Coyle, I quickly got into using these ideas of a deliberate practice to gain mastery, flow to get into enjoyment in your activities, visualization to improve your performance, and now it seems like I have much more joy as I'm working. I have much greater motivation and much greater hope for the future, based on the all of the enjoyable activities I'm able to do during the days. I also train even more, and I actually want to lift weights and run on the same day, 7 days a week. It's kind of extreme, you can say. But we'll see how long this lasts. At least working out very often. That's become much more enjoyable now that I know how I can induce flow in those experiences. So the main point I want to make here is that some activities that you're doing right now, which was reading for me, might not be giving you the most flow that you can possibly experience. Because it might not be challenging enough, perhaps you don't have clear goals, you aren't focused enough, and other activities might be really good for inducing flow. And take care, I'm not saying that you should stop reading if you're doing that, or that you shouldn't start reading if you don't, because I still do it in the evenings, but what changed is that I teach a lot more. I have created as many videos in these three last weeks as I have during the entire 5 months before. So my performance has increased by 5 to 6 times, just by choosing to do the most important and hardest thing first each day, which is also the activity that creates most flow within me, since challenges is a real key here. But the main point again is fulfillment is one of the main rewards that you get from flow activities. And the other one is you're able to ratchet up your peak performance to perform at levels of 2, 3, or 5 times higher than you were before. And I'm not just saying this as an exaggeration to kind of trick you into starting to use these flow principles that I'm going to talk about soon, but it's actually true, because you'll soon notice that when you're absolutely focused on what you do, you have clear goals and immediate feedback, you see how you're doing, and you're improving over the long run. You are getting so much better performance than if you are just drifting, not knowing what you actually want to accomplish, not being focused, not having any challenges, you're just bored. So that's something that you need to experience for yourself. But the benefits of flow are mainly fulfillment and peak performance. So that's the why of flow. Now let's look at how we can actually start creating it consistently into our own activities, daily activities that you're doing right now, or new activities that you want to start. So if you have watched my videos on Peak by Anders Ericsson or Talent is Overrated by Jeff Coyle, then you might have seen that I've shared the principles of deliberate practice, how to attain mastery in any skill or craft. The funny thing is that the flow principles, they are almost perfectly overlap with the deliberate practice principles, meaning that the way to get most fulfillment out of what you do and to master it is pretty much the same thing. It requires you to do the same things. So here are the principles. And as I go through them, I want you to reflect on the most important activity for you or the most important skill that you want to develop. Because then you can see how you'll start making the connections between what you can do to apply this principle and this one. Perhaps you'll get away with something good from this video. So here are the principles of flow. First, you need to set very clear goals. Some overall goal of what you want to accomplish in the long term, and then as many sub-goals as realistically possible. Meaning that you can have a specific goal for this practice session right here, that you're doing right now. And that's instead of having murky goals so you don't know what you're actually aiming at, like an archer just shooting out in the forest without actually having any targets. Second principle of flow is to get immediate feedback. Find some way to monitor whether you are hitting the target, the goal that you set for yourself. Whether that's using a video when you're trying to improve your presentations, you're looking at the answers back in the book after you tried solving the math problems, not before because that doesn't help you learn as much, or it might be just observing yourself as you are performing the activity, which requires more practice, of course, since it takes a lot of mental effort to practice new components to the skills you want to develop. But the key is create immediate feedback. If you don't have feedback, you're like a bowler who bowls with the curtains down to his knees, so he doesn't really see whether he is hitting the white kegs, or what it's called, when he sends the bowling ball. Third principle of flow is to match challenges to your skill level. If you want to cultivate your energy to ramp it up in your public speaking, and you set the goal of, I want to be like Tony Robbins in this first practice session, and you beat yourself up if you're not as energized as Tony Robbins, who jumps up on stage for 12 hours a day over entire weekends or even weeks, keeps thousands of people energized and going with him. Then if you try to set that kind of goal, you go into anxiety. That's way too big a challenge for the skill level that you're at right now, if you're just starting out or you haven't really mastered the skill yet. So if you want to develop your energy, you want to develop it a little bit more, but not to the point not require that you are as energized as Tony Robbins, and also not as dull as the most boring professor you have ever listened to, or teacher, who always speaks in a monotone, who stands completely still, and you just want to kill yourself while listening. So there's a line. Match your challenges to the skills. And the fourth principle of flow is focus. Create an absolute concentration on the activity that you do. And this is really important because interruptions, when you have interruptions, it's much like you're riding a bike. You have gotten to full speed, you are using a high gear, so you get very far by just kicking once, but then somebody comes and just stops you dead on the track, on the bike. Then you need to get going again, but the thing is that you still need to get up into that high gear, and it takes a long time to get into speed again. Meaning, if people interrupt you, or text messages, notifications, emails, a television show, then it will be really hard to get into flow again, to get up to speed. So you don't want to be the person who sits and munches Oreos while it's playing and watching Game of Thrones, wondering, oh my god, when are the dragons coming again? Are there going to be any more sex scenes that I can enjoy? And such. I want to create total focus. So those are the 4 principles of flow. Clear goals, immediate feedback on when you are hitting them, match challenges to skills, and concentrate, leave away interruptions. So, to summarize, flow is a state of optimal experience where time vanishes, your self-consciousness disappears, and you are totally immersed in your experience. The reason we want more of it is to gain more fulfillment in our activities that we do, and also in our lives in general, because we feel like we have more purpose, more meaning while we're pursuing meaningful projects and gaining peak performance in them, performing at extremely high levels and mastering our craft. And finally, the principles that can help us consistently get into flow are the same as deliberate practice: clear goals, immediate feedback, match challenges to skills, and concentrate. So now, I want to really challenge you to apply one thing, the one thing you learned in this video that can have the most positive impact on your life. Because if we're trying to do everything, we end up doing nothing. If we try to improve everything, we end up improving nothing. So instead of being that kind of guy who just splits himself in every directions, pick one thing. Are you going to set clear goals for your practice sessions? Some way to get immediate feedback. Perhaps you'll start concentrating, or you can create some more challenges. And you can try applying all the principles at once, but I would recommend that you start with just one, especially goals and feedback. Perhaps that's two. This is part of the principles. But you need to listen to yourself. What do you want to apply? And this is a very quick look at flow by Mihalyi Csikszentmihalyi. Please like this video, share it with your friends, and leave a comment down below so I can follow up with you there. And finally, subscribe to my channel so you can stay up to date on key ideas for becoming all that you can be. Thank you very much for watching, and I wish you an awesome day.